Welcome to the Zoning Subcommittee of the Revere City Council, October 21st, 2024. All rise and salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members of the Zoning Subcommittee. Councilor Guarino-Sawaya.
Here.
Here. Councilor Kelly.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Silvestri.
Here.
Here. Councilor Zambudo.
Here.
Chairman Zambudo. Here.
Here.
Quorum is present. There is one matter tonight on the agenda. This is the Zoning Subcommittee is meeting for the purpose of discussing amendments offered by Councilors Haas, Jaramillo, and Kelly relative to the following proposed zoning ordinance. A zoning ordinance establishing definitions, uses, special permit district boundaries, and regulations for marijuana establishments.
Before we get started, I want to have a few ground rules here. This meeting is not tonight about who's against marijuana. We've heard from most of you that you're against marijuana. The reason for this meeting tonight is to vote on amendments to the to just strictly vote on amendments. We're not discussing whether marijuana is good or bad or any of that. We're discussing boundaries for the map. Should the council vote in the next meeting to repeal the law that's in place and to go forward with this marijuana? We're putting some guidelines in place here tonight. So I will allow people to speak on the amendments only, if you want to do that. But I don't want to hear that you're against marijuana or for marijuana. That's not what this is about. So that's where we're at here, and so we're going to try to go forward in an orderly manner, and I think we'll take each amendment separately, and I think I'll take comments on each amendment. Madam Clerk. Where do we go?
Councilor Kelly submitted some proposed amendments. She actually submitted a revised buffer zone from 1,000 to 600 feet. I believe every committee member received a copy of that. I don't know, Councilor Kelly, did you want to go through each one by one there?
Thank you. So the First Amendment basically just seeks to exclude a section of the southern side of Squire Road. This section of Squire Road is very unique in that it allows for general business districts and highway business districts to directly abut a densely populated, family-oriented residential neighborhood with absolutely no buffer zone. Therefore, I'm asking that it be excluded from the list of permissible locations for recreational marijuana use establishments. And I'd also like to point out that the Planning Board reviewed this amendment and also voted favorably, they had a favorable recommendation on it. That's it. I just ask that we vote favorably on this tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else on this particular amendment? Everybody seems to be in agreement with this. Do we want to vote on this? Let's have a roll call.
Shall the Zoning Subcommittee approve the amendment to the proposed recreational marijuana zoning as follows? Proposed section 17-16480, section A1, entitled GB Districts, subsections A, B, and C shall be deleted in its entirety. Subsections D, E, and F shall be relettered as A, B, and C accordingly. On that amendment, Councilor Guarino-Sawaya?
No.
No. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Councilor Silvestri?
No.
No. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, the amendment is approved. I'm sorry, the amendment fails.
President, I'd like some clarification. Apparently, Councilor Silvestri believes that this amendment speaks to the entire southern side of Squire Road. That is not what the amendment is speaking to. The amendment is speaking to 3 locations at the side of the beginning side of Squire Road. The portion of Squire Road beginning at Patriots Parkway past the Fish Market area is not included in this list as an excluded area. I'd like to make that classification, and maybe we should have another roll call because the counselor misunderstood the amendment. Thank you.
The zoning subcommittee would have to vote to reconsider the prior vote.
I will vote to reconsider it.
She
I
wants-
second.
Okay.
Shall the zoning subcommittee reconsider the last vote that was taken?
All in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Yeah, can we be more specific on what's included and what's not included?
I'll pull up the exact parcels.
Okay. Bear with us here. This is new territory. In a lot of ways, new territory.
Yeah, I know it doesn't include that parcel that's after Patriot Parkway on the right-hand side. Yeah. So I'll just show you, folks. So D is not being stricken under that motion that was offered by Councilor Kelly. This particular parcel is located towards the, closer to Brown Circle, after Patriot Parkway. That's not the case. It's A, B, and C.
Okay, everybody knows what we're voting on now? Good.
So do it. On the motion again, shall the zoning subcommittee approve a proposed amendment to proposed recreational zoning as follows? Amending section 17-16480, section A1 entitled GB Districts, subsections A, B, and C shall be deleted in its entirety, and subsections D, E, and F shall be relettered as A, B, and C accordingly. Counselor Guarino-Sawaya.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Silvestri?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, that amendment passes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk. This amendment basically, this does not refer to a buffer zone. It refers to the abutter notification zone, which applies to applicants when applying for a special permit. Right now, the law would require a 300-foot abutter notification zone, meaning that the applicant would be required to notify abutters within a 300-foot radius of where they intend to open their business. What I'm asking for is that this 300-foot abutter notification zone be increased to 600 feet. Thereby, it will give residents, more residents, notification that such an establishment would be opening. So this just speaks to awareness and transparency. I understand that the Mass General Law for special permits does set forth a 300-foot abutter notification zone requirement. However, when I spoke to the town planner, he said that he didn't think that there would be anything from preventing us from doing this, so I just thought I would like to open the discussion on it, since it would allow for a greater number of residents to be made aware that one of these establishments would be opening near them, thereby giving them the opportunity to oppose if they so wish during the special permit process. Thank you.
Any councilors want to discuss this? Counselor Guarino-Sawaya.
Thank you. Okay. So this is, what, 600 feet? Councilor Kelly, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But your motion is for 1,000. Are you changing that motion in order to do the 600 feet? Or I think that would have to be taken up first.
I supplied everyone with a amended sheet which sets forth 600 feet for not only the abutter notification zone, which we are discussing now, but also a buffer zone, which will be discussed later in the subsequent amendments.
So if we vote favorably on this, would it change the outcome of the other,
No.
the buffer zone? No?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
They're two independent issues. This is just the requirement that if someone were applying for a special permit because they wish to own one of these establishments, they would be required to notify abutters within a 600-foot radius.
Okay,
That's
so, Section G of 17.30.050, the phrase "by certified mail upon receipt requested" shall be inserted after the word "writing," right? That's what you have?
That's actually, the certified mail is actually the next amendment. Right now, what we're discussing in Amendment 3,
Amendment 2.
Amendment 2
Yeah.
is just the distance for the abutter notification zone.
So if passed, the certified mail may give people, residents, the impression that those property owners are interested parties, and it can cause a lot of confusion within the buffer zone, because it's like people that don't even live near there are going to be getting notification. So this amendment will require that the applicant must send notification to property owners of the uses listed below within 600 feet of the proposed location by certified mail. Return receipt requested in order to get on site plan review and start the application process. The cost of certified mail could place an undue burden
Are we
on
sticking on the
applicants.
same right amendment, Ashley?
Yes, we are. Amendment 2.
Amendment 2.
Amendment 2 reads, amendment to Section 173050, Section G, the phrase "by certified mail, return receipt requested" shall be inserted after the word "writing," period. That's amendment number 2.
Okay,
Can I finish? Thanks.
okay, thank you.
The cost of certified mail, certified with green card return, now everybody has to have that green card return, is $9.64 per piece of mail. Certified with and then more abutters that we have that aren't even in the zone that's anywhere near it, the more cost it's going to be on the city. In contrast, as an example, like for example, the liquor licenses, they only require direct abutters to receive certified mail. And it is within the 500 feet of school zones, which is what the state is asking us to follow. That's their guidelines. So applying this requirement to all abutters within the buffer zone could potentially be cost prohibitive. Thank you.
May I respond to that?
Anyone else have anything to say? Go ahead, Councilor Kelly.
I would just like to point out that the cost would be strictly borne by the applicant looking to open the establishment. They are in the commercial business of opening a commercial business. We're not asking a resident or putting this burden or this cost on someone that can't afford it. If they're opening up this business, I think they can afford it. Regarding the 500 feet, I would be amenable to decreasing the 600 to 500 feet. I think the goal here is just to make sure that residents are aware that an establishment such as this is going to be located within 500 feet instead of 600 feet from where they live. And I believe that does make them an interested party. I believe that that does give them some standing. We're not talking about a liquor store, we're talking about a recreational marijuana use facility. We don't have any evidentiary test right now that can test for the way blood alcohol levels are tested. We don't have anything like that. So I think this is an important change in our zoning, and I think therefore more people rather than less people should be made aware of it. Thank you.
So just as a point of clarity, this would actually be going from 300 feet to 500 feet? Am I reading that correctly? What's the first paragraph?
On Amendment 2, the zoning subcommittee is on Amendment 2. This is simply providing, instead of just simply in writing a regular notice by mail, Counselor Kelly's amendment would require that notice be sent by certified mail, return receipt requested. That's the amendment that the committee's on.
Okay, so that's not the case now, that it's not required by certified mail, is that correct? Current.
There's no marijuana zoning.
I know
which would require-
marijuana, I'm comparing it to the liquor stores.
I believe liquor stores are direct abutters only,
Okay,
and then
so,
schools located within 500 feet would receive a notice by certified mail.
so this is a big jump from that precedent. Okay, anybody else want to discuss this, or have anything to add to this?
Mr. President, if I could. I'm
Counselor
sorry.
Kelly.
I'm sorry. I just want to remind the council of how many times that in my short time being on the council and in years previous going to zoning subcommittees and council meetings where special permits are being discussed, we often do hear that residents don't receive notice. We often do hear that I didn't know this was happening, all right, I missed a deadline because I didn't get the notice. The certified mail would actually ensure that the residents got notice. We would be, and in other towns, I know that establishments will actually go above and beyond and do the certified mail, even if it's not required in their ordinance. I believe the establishment in Malden, right at the beginning of Route 1, I was actually in the post office when they were doing it, because they wanted to make sure that they were giving residents ample opportunity and notification, because this is an important change in zoning. They will often go above and beyond to make sure residents have notification of it, and that there aren't any residents that come before the council or the ZBA saying, you know what, we didn't receive notice, we didn't know about it. So it's just to ensure that people get notification. Thank you.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I don't mind increasing the notifications, but when you're doing certified mail, many of the buildings that may be in this area, the people don't live there, they live out of town. And honestly, they don't care. They're worried about that they don't have their taxes, but they will not tell the residents that something's going on. If they live in Marblehead, or if they live in Wakefield, they're not going to run back down to the house and say, oh, by the way, there's a public hearing on such and such a thing. A landlord will not do that. And so not everybody is going to get the notification because of that. If they mail it to the address of the home that's involved, that's within that, whatever distance we decide, then they'll get it. So I'm against the certified mail. I don't mind the distance when it comes up, but I'm against the certified mail situation.
Thank you, Council. Council President Cogliano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that I do agree with this amendment. I think the more notification we can give, the better. I live over 700 feet away from Squire Road. If something was to be built down there, or a new business was going in, I would also want to be notified as a resident that something was going to be, needing a special permit or a variance. So I'm in favor of this amendment. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just a
Councilor
clarification.
Guarino-Sawaya. Go ahead.
Just clarification. Was it 600 feet, or are we going down to 500 feet? And does,
That's not the issue.
It's not in the question right now.
that's not even the question?
No.
Okay,
Whether
thank you.
it's certified
Certified
or
or
not.
not.
Okay, are we ready to vote here? Madam Clerk?
I'm sorry,
Call the roll.
Counselor, I thought you
Oh.
said that we as the public could comment on the amendments. Thank you. So, I
Name
would
and
like-
address, please.
Viviana Catano, Mountain Avenue, Revere. I just want to comment in support of the abutter notification. I think Councilor President Congliandro made an excellent point at the meeting on October 7th, that oftentimes things in this community happen without residents knowing. And so that's why we have a room full of people here today, because we found out word of mouth, not because we saw it on the city's website that the city was discussing this, is because people started calling each other and say, do you know this is happening? And so I ask that you please do the certified mail, because it will assure that as many people as possible, especially the people that don't care, they won't reply. Good, their job is done. And the people that do feel very strongly, I don't want this business in my backyard and next to my business, I don't want this business in my neighborhood or so close to my school, they'll have a chance to at least come before you and be fully notified. So I ask that you please strongly consider the certified mail. It will show transparency, especially counselors. If next week, if the full council does vote to repeal the marijuana ban, at least we will know, okay, when is this coming to my area so that I can talk about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Name and address, please.
Good evening, my name is Christine Robertson. I reside at 187 Charter Street. I live 120 feet from Squire Road, so welcome to my neighborhood. I think everyone in this city that is a taxpayer, homeowner, or renter deserves to know what's going on in their neighborhood. If they're going to open a business, they can well afford to send out a certified letter. I've had many things happen in my neighborhood that I did not get letters for, and they're in business today. I'm sorry, I think that's wrong. We pay the taxes, we pay your salary. You need to consider what we have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Edward M. Nazaro Jr., 238 Beach Street, Revere. And in regards to, I was concerned about the certified letter. Why not require them to also send it out by regular mail in multiple languages, not just in English, maybe Spanish, Vietnamese, or whatever it may be? Because we do have a large, diverse population in our city, and everybody should have the opportunity wherever they speak for their native language, be it English, Italian, whatever it may be. We also have a large Muslim population as well. So I would ask to set certified and also by regular mail, maybe current occupant or whatever it may be. So I don't think it harms anybody. The more information people have, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nazaro. Okay, that appears to be everybody. Can you clarify this, what we're actually voting on, please?
Councilor Kelly's amendment, number 2, was as follows. Section 1730050G, the phrase "by certified mail, return receipt requested" shall be inserted after the word "writing." On that amendment, Councilor Guarino-Sawaya?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Silvestri?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, the amendment has been approved.
Next item.
Thank you. Okay, so now we can get into the actual abutter notification zone, which I originally asked to be amended to 600 feet. I think I would be willing to consider 500 feet. I just don't think the 300 feet is enough at all. Again, this is an important zoning change. I want as many people to be notified as possible. I want to make sure that they get notice. So I definitely think that the 300 feet in this situation is not adequate. So if anything, if the council will not favorably accept 600 feet, I would be willing to accept 500 feet. Thank you.
Councilor Guarino-Sawaya.
I would like to put in a motion to have it for 500 feet. And my reason is this. The ME is located at least 500 feet away from the nearest school entrances. That's what I'm looking for. The buffer zone's distance of 500 feet shall be measured in a straight line from the geometric center of the marijuana establishment entrance to the geometric center of the nearest school entrance, unless there is an impassable barrier within the 500 feet. In these cases, the buffer zone's distance shall be measured along the center of the shortest publicly accessible pedestrian travel path from the geometric center of the ME. The buffer zone, as it applies to the school, shall not be reduced. The state law is 500 feet. That's what the state.
I'm sorry,
Councilor,
Yes,
we're not talking buffer zones right now, so.
We're talking about the distance, the 500.
No, but
No, we're
this-
talking about a
We're
notification
not talking about
zone.
the buffer zone district distance.
She just
right?
said 600,
We're
she would be
talking-
willing to do 600 to 500,
It's
because
for the
that's what
mail.
my
Yes,
motion was.
Counselor,
pertaining
it's for
to
the
the
mail.
abutter notification zone,
This is
not
only
the
the
buffer zone.
notification zone, so.
Okay, so
Okay.
I apologize.
You don't need to apologize, it's very confusing.
Ashley didn't read it, so I didn't realize that that's what
Okay.
you were doing.
All right, so that's what we're doing here.
Counselor
Okay, so-
Kelly read it instead of you, so
All
I'm sorry.
right, so now, anybody else want to discuss the distance, not of the buffer zone, of the notification zone? I think I got that right.
Yep,
Is that
that's
right?
fine. 500.
We're talking number 3, right? Be clear, yeah, please read it.
Zoning Subcommittee members, to be clear, we are on amendment number 3 that was presented by Counselor Kelly. The amendment is as follows. Section 17-30050, Section G, the reference to 300 feet shall be changed to 600 feet. In this instance, this is not regarding the buffer zone around any of the proposed different uses, but rather the notification requirement by certified mail, which was just voted on by this committee.
So, am I to get this straight, that you're changing this to 500 feet instead of 600 feet?
I
Is that
will-
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Councilor.
So do we need a substitute for that, or are we just proposing it as 500 feet?
A counselor is allowed to change their own motion, as you know, on the floor if they
Okay.
want.
So
Okay.
it's changed. Consider
Okay.
it changed to 500.
Let me reread this then, okay?
Okay, go right ahead.
Amendment number 3, as proposed by Counselor Kelly. Section 17-30050, Section G, the reference to 300 feet shall be changed to 500 feet.
Everybody all set for a roll call here? Okay. Madam Clerk.
Shall the zoning subcommittee approve the following amendment to the proposed marijuana zoning ordinance? Section 17-30050, Section G is hereby amended by deleting the reference to 300 feet and inserting in place thereof 500 feet. Counselor Guarino Sawaya.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Kelly.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Silvestri.
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes, that amendment passes.
Amendment number
Next.
4.
Thank you. So basically, this amendment is seeking to omit a section in its entirety, because what the section seeks to accomplish is that once a buffer zone is agreed upon and designated, this language would allow the city council, if requested by an applicant seeking a special permit to open one of these establishments, to reduce the buffer zone. So I'll give you an example for clarification purposes. If we were to have a buffer zone of 500 feet, an applicant could be looking to open up an establishment that is less than that 500 feet, maybe 200 feet or 300 feet away from a school. He would then be allowed to state his case before the city council and ask the city council to approve that reduced buffer zone for that particular applicant in that particular circumstance. My point in trying to delete this clause is that if we are going to have a buffer zone, I feel as though the buffer zone should be strictly adhered to. Once we agree upon what the amount of the buffer zone should be, I believe it should be strictly adhered to. The reason is that it's going to, if we do anything other than that and we circumvent, we allow to circumvent the, to reduce the buffer zone, it's going to lead to inconsistency. We've seen that before. It's also going to set a precedent for future situations. So if one person requesting a special permit for an establishment happens to be within 300 feet of a school, their special permit comes up, the city council votes on it and allows them to have their special permit, that means the next person that's looking to open one of these establishments can go ahead and do the same thing and cite the precedent before that. So again, we effectively are going to put a buffer zone in place that really won't have any teeth in it, because it can just be circumvented at the will of the city council. So I think it does lead to inconsistency. It'll set a precedent for future regulations. It will negate the need for comprehensive planning, and it may actually erode public trust and community sentiment by giving perceptions of favoritism depending upon who's requesting the special permit and therefore. So I ask that we just take this language out, we delete it in its entirety, and once we agree on a buffer zone, it can't be circumvented and it will have to stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kelly. Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
I think this amendment takes the power away from the city council. And if a marijuana establishment meets all the other criteria set forth by the city and the state, except for the buffer zone, for example, if we have a really good applicant who knows what he's doing, and he's a reputable business owner, he proposed a location, a marijuana location, which was 499 feet away from a listed buffer zone. They wouldn't be able to operate. It doesn't make sense. It takes away the power that the city council actually has to grant a variance with the distance requirement for something like that. I mean, it's just, you're talking a foot, you're talking 6 inches. You can't budge if it's at 500 feet, period. So if it's 499.5, they can't have it. So I'm going to be voting no on this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Council President Cogliandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I happen to agree with this amendment. I think that where it may be 499 feet, what if they come back and they want to do 300 feet? What if they have signed petitions from, a couple of the abutting neighbors, but then the people across the street don't want it? When we create this ordinance, the power of the council is to create, repeal, or modify these ordinances. So I just think that this would be a sign of good faith to the community to let them know that our buffer that we're going to set is the buffer. There's not going to be any way to change it. So I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's vote the amendment.
On Councilor Kelly's amendment number 4, section 1730.060E, subsection 1, shall be deleted in its entirety. Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
No?
No. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Councilor Silvestri?
No.
No. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, the amendment fails.
Number 5.
Okay. This amendment speaks to the number of permissible establishments that the city would be allowed to approve. Basically, there is a section of the Massachusetts General Law, 94G, Chapter 94G, which states that the number of permissible establishments is dependent upon an amount equal to 20% of our liquor licenses. This basically breaks down to 5 establishments for us. So if everything goes through, that would mean that.
Mr. President, through you to the council member.
Is this a point of information, Council?
Point of information.
State your point.
I'd like to get an opinion before we vote on this, because I'm not sure that we can do what this is, because the whole law behind it going to a ballot question or put forward would be determined on this happening. So for her to say, no, we're going to cut it to 2 would automatically drive this to a ballot
Right,
question.
correct, I was getting to that.
Right. So
I was getting to that.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to cover that.
Thanks for the
No.
point, Counselor. Thanks
Right.
for the point.
I'm going to cover that. So basically, if we allow or we agree to have anything less than what the state recommends, which is 5, that would basically trigger a ballot vote. The ballot vote would simply be a question of whether or not.
point of information, Mr. Chairman.
State your point.
That is absolutely not true. We can have up to 5. We do not have to open 5.
Right.
So, Counselor, we can sit here and say all the nightmarish things that we can say. We can sit here and say, what if, and we're going to possibly, it might end up next to a school, it might end up on a roof somewhere.
Right.
But you know what? It have faith in your other body and stop making us look like we're very like shady and absent-minded, because that's all you're doing here.
All right,
You're-
I gotta stop you.
We are,
So-
it is
Enough.
within my purview. It is within my
Point
purview.
of order here.
Okay.
Order. I don't want back and forth talk here.
Okay. Mark, you know what? You're very sarcastic, that last comment that you just made.
I don't want
Very
back and forth.
sarcastic.
Counselor, enough.
The amendment simply limits the amount of permissible approvals that the city would be able to issue, okay? If we were to say that 5 is too many, and we would like to reduce the number to 2 or 3 establishments and cap it at that, it would trigger a ballot vote under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 94, Section 3. The vote simply would say whether or not the city wants to have the maximum permissible establishments of 5 or a number fewer than 5.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
State your point.
Okay, I would like the crowd to understand as well, if that does trigger a ballot question and it goes to the ballot and it passes the ballot, so let's say it goes back to the public and it passes.
I would like to finish
But I
I
want
would-
you to
no,
make sure they
Mark,
understand fully.
Because I'm getting there, Mark, if you
All right,
let me finish.
I'm letting,
I am going to explain it. It's going to be a non-binding vote that's
all
going
right,
to cost money.
So we're not gonna
okay?
have any more, we're gonna let Counselor Kelly finish.
You let
I
me
understand,
finish.
let Counselor Kelly finish her, you can simply vote against it, that's all. Okay. Continue to finish. Continue the amendment, please.
This is just going to be prolonged if I have to keep repeating myself and going over this, okay? If the valid vote was taken, first of all, it would be a non-binding vote, meaning that if the city agrees to a number less than 5, the city council does not have to go along with that vote. In addition, it would cost the city approximately $100,000. So I would like everyone to be aware of these considerations before voting on this. However, I believe that this directly relates to the amount of an abutter notification zone, because we did receive maps from the town planner, and it looks like if we were to increase our abutter notification zone, we wouldn't be able to have any of these things in the city, because it would be too hard for them to be located anywhere, okay? So that tells me maybe 5 then is too many. So that's why I decided to set forth this amendment. Instead of the 5, I'm asking that it be reduced to 2. I think 2 of these establishments in the city is plenty. I think any more than that is overkill. If anyone wants to recommend another number, 3 or 4,
Point
we
of
can
information,
entertain
Mr.
it.
President.
State your point.
Okay, I want everyone to understand that if that is what happens and a ballot question is triggered and the ballot question passes, all of these amendments that we're voting on tonight go out the window. It goes strictly by the state guidelines. So all the restrictions that she is adding into the law right now would go out the window, and we would have to follow state
Can you cite
regulations,
that?
which
Can you
are
cite that?
less.
Can you provide me a citation for what you're basing that
Okay,
opinion
and
on?
listen, this is not a back and forth
I would
body
like
here.
the citation on that.
Counselor Kelly.
I need it.
It's not a back and forth body here.
It is when it's him.
I let him do a point of information. Finish your amendment, please.
It's my opinion that 5 of these establishments operating in the city is too many. We should consider reducing the number to 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, any discussion on this? Council President Cogliandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Councilor Kelly. Councilor, is there a number that we could lessen this to that would not trigger a ballot question?
I am open to recommendations.
I'm more asking from a legal standpoint, if that's a
No.
possibility.
No.
Okay, all right,
So
thank you.
we have the city solicitor here. Can you come up to the podium, please, and straighten that out?
Now, the state law requires 20%, as Michelle Kelly Councilor Kelly clearly articulated, of the number of liquor stores, which I believe we have 23, so it comes out to like 4.6, which equals 5. That's the lowest we can go without going to a ballot.
Thank you for that point of information.
Could I ask,
And one other thing. I'm hearing, I got confused because I'm hearing town planner. I thought we were in another, I thought we moved to something, or we changed the
No.
charter. You mean the city planner?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry for that. Could I ask Attorney Capizzi
Go right
a question?
ahead.
Attorney Capizzi, is it your legal opinion that if we were to trigger a ballot vote and it would be limited to just this one specific, that all of these other amendments would have no validity?
That's probably the case, yes.
How, probably the case. Why do you say that?
Because I haven't researched it, and I didn't read in the statute when I was reading it that it would wipe out any other controls by the local governing bodies such as yourselves. So that's why I say that.
But the local controls that we have in the proposed ordinance say was a 300-foot buffer zone, whereas the Commonwealth suggests 500. So since that is in direct conflict, then what would happen in a case like that?
Well, it's not in direct conflict because the statute allows the city to reduce the buffer zone.
Right, but that would be a modification, and you said that all modifications would no longer have validity.
No, I didn't say that. That's not what I said.
Point
I
of,
said the opposite, actually. I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So the modifications would, this is a
No.
complicated issue. So the modifications would stand?
To the
no.
best of my knowledge, yes. Everything but what would go, and Mark may know more than I, anything but what was voted
Council
on the
Silvestri,
ballot.
do you have a question for the solicitor?
I do. Paul, if you could please look into this, because I think what Councilor Kelly's missing, right, is that if the city voted on it, yes or no, we could not then step in and make our own laws around that, and these wouldn't matter because they voted for the CDC regulations that the state provides.
Well, I mean, I'll clarify, the vote would simply be on the number of establishments, nothing else. So any other controls that are in place, as far as I'm concerned, would still remain that have passed this body.
Thank you.
But bear in mind, if the question fails on the ballot, you go back to the 5 establishments.
Okay.
Okay, so, Council Silvestri, you all set?
All set.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, where do we stand? We want to vote on this amendment?
Read the amendment into the record.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Do I have somebody that wants to speak?
There won't be any, it'll be.
Do you want to speak on this amendment specifically?
I do want to speak about this amendment specifically.
Okay, you got 2 minutes.
I'm gonna be so quick, I promise. So originally I thought we were doing 3, and so now today I'm hearing that we're doing 5. And so I just want to mention to the councilors here tonight, you guys are talking about what's gonna take place should you repeal the marijuana ban. I don't know if that conversation is gonna go to the full council, but again, notice what we're voting for, that even if some of us could agree, guys, let's do 1, we're talking about 5 if this thing fails.
true.
We're talking about 5.
Name and address for the record, please.
We don't have.
Press the button.
Alberto Vasallo, 419 Proctor Ave. The reason why I said this question, doesn't matter if it's before or after, is, first of all, thank you, councilors, and if you guys could just each one address this in 15 seconds or less, because I don't want to take too much of your time, but as a point of clarification to all these people who have come here, who obviously are against marijuana and believe that their opposition still matters, is the vote next week a foregone conclusion? Because if so, then, and if not, then why are we having this discussion before that goes?
Okay.
Wouldn't this render it?
Let me- Okay,
I
so
think
let
these
me
people wanna know
clarify
that.
what's going on here tonight.
Yeah.
What's going on here tonight is the amendments that if the Council in Legislative Affairs approves removes the ban on marijuana, then these conditions would be subject to it.
Right, but if not, then it's a moot point.
Right,
All of
but
this
it-
is for
but-
nothing.
Chairman?
All
Are
of
you
this is for
asking
nothing.
what the reason we're having this meeting tonight instead
No,
of
I'm
then?
asking why the order, why it's in
Well,
verse, why you put
because
the cart before the horse.
it's a timing issue. We
Okay.
didn't have enough time in
Okay.
the meeting we had, and we couldn't have this meeting the same night as that meeting.
I just want to
So
explain it to them
This is just,
of why.
this is just the business part of it. And if for some reason the Legislative Affairs Committee does not vote to repeal the marijuana law, this is dead, and it's a moot point.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Council President.
just to add a little bit more.
Cargliandro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So just so everyone knows, subcommittees are where we do a lot of the hashing out of these issues. Now, the votes you're hearing tonight are not the final votes. These are simply either a favorable or unfavorable recommendation to the entire city council, which will take place on October 28th. So this is where we discuss the zoning amendments. The subcommittee then says we're in favor or not in favor. Then we have legislative affairs for the repeal. They say we're either in favor or not in favor. And then the entire city council will get together, and that's where it's going to be voted up or down there. So the order of the subcommittees truly doesn't really matter. We have to make sure we have these conversations before we get to the city council meeting of a whole. And to Chairman Zambuto's point, we don't have enough time because of the statutes that we set. We can only have so much time for subcommittee meetings before we have to have the city council meeting. So that's why we're having this tonight as opposed to before the council meeting of the whole like we always do. So does anyone else have any other questions about the procedure and process of this? I just want to make sure that everybody's very clear on it. Ms. Catano, absolutely. Mr. Chairman, through you, absolutely.
Just very quickly, could you clarify the things that you guys have voted on tonight, like the certified mail and the abutter notification? Councilor Congliander, are you saying they're not final because they will actually be final once the full council votes on it?
Let me tell you what it is.
Yes?
Let me
Okay.
tell you what it is. These are recommendations to the city council. We voted out favorably these recommendations. We offer it to the city council, and the city council as a whole votes up or down.
Got it.
But
Thank
it's
you.
only recommendations.
Good
Name and
evening.
address for the record, please.
My name is Olga. I live on Glendale Street, Revere, Massachusetts. And I'm here to voice out my concerns about these amendments that are not enough. And I'm proposing and asking you, why are we rushing while still we are witnessing today so much confusion, even among yourselves? Imagine the whole room and the whole community. There are still a lot of people who doesn't know about it. Can you not rush this process? Is there a reason why we're rushing and not letting the community to process the whole thing and understanding? I mean, we're getting, like I'm hearing about millions of dollars, but not spending money on a certified mail. This is not fair.
We're not rushing anything here. You may think we're rushing, and you may think we're disorganized. We're trying to get it right. So we're trying to have everybody's opinion flushed out, so in case somebody has something that we missed, then we have it. But these, again, when we're finished here tonight, these are only recommendations to the full city council.
Can I ask you something?
And so, but if you think we're rushing this, I disagree with you. Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
I'm saying this because the community
I
will just find
understand
out.
fully the
Can I ask
concern.
you
I
something?
understand, and I have the same concerns, and believe me, maybe even more. But this is the process. This is what we do. It's not being rushed.
Mr. Chairman, point of
Thank you.
information.
State your point.
Thank you, Councilor. I just want to say that just to the comment of rushing, the last city council meeting we had, this could have all been voted on and over with. But because of the community speaking up and saying we want to hear more, we need to make sure that more people know about this. That's why we're here tonight. So we tabled these so that we could have more conversation and alert more people in the community. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And one more thing. So you voted on your favorable recommendations. If the city council vote yes for everything, what I'm assuming, because you already make up your mind except for a few, this is all the reality for the future marijuana retail stores. Not enough distance between high schools, childcare facilities, library, parking place.
Wait. You're making up stuff here. Don't say there's not enough distance. We're talking 500 feet from a school.
500 feet.
That's the state law. And we haven't even
Yeah.
discussed that yet. But the bottom line is, that's the state law. That is the law right now. Thank you. We've got to move on. Thank you.
Anthony Pasiali, 51 Arcadia Street. Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, I'd really like to save the taxpayers $100,000 and like to see you guys just be okay with the possible 5 locations, and here's my reasoning why. One, with the buffer zones, if you go up to 2 football fields, you're basically not going to get more than 3 anyway. So you're already at 3, why waste the money? And then if it's the will of the council, even if it passes, the council still gets to decide, so it still could be a waste of $100,000. I think going to a ballot question would be a burden on the taxpayer, and I'm not for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, where are we at? We're voting on... We're voting on amendment number 5. We want to clarify it again, please. Thank you.
Amendment number 5, offered by Councilor Kelly, is as follows. Chapter 17-30040C shall be deleted in its entirety and placed with the following text. The number of marijuana establishments shall be limited to 2. No special permit may be granted for a marijuana establishment which violates this limit. On that amendment, Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
No.
No. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Councilor Silvestri?
No.
No. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, the amendment fails.
Okay, so now what do we have here?
There are now proposed joint amendments that were filed by Councilor Kelly, who's on the committee, as well as Councilor Robert Hass.
Okay, he can speak from the podium. Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. So now we can talk about buffer zones. So the ordinance as written, as proposed, calls for a 300-foot buffer zone to daycare facilities, schools, and the like. I kind of had some discussions with a lot of residents, and you know, everyone seems to want this buffer zone to be increased. They don't feel that the 300 feet is an adequate buffer zone. The state law does recommend a buffer zone of 500 feet. I'm originally asking for 600 feet. I would be open for discussion to have a 500 feet limit instead, or a buffer zone instead, if you know, I would like to amend my amendment, I guess, and I would propose the 500 feet instead, if that is more reasonable. But definitely the 300 feet is just way too low for the buffer zone as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kelly. Anyone else? Nobody else? Oh, Councilor Hass, apologize. Should have saw you standing there.
Thank you. Robert Haas, 161 Fenley Street. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the reasoning behind the buffer zone. At the last council meeting, there were a few of us who thought the 300 feet could have been increased a little bit. We suggested 500, I suggested 600, we went up to 1,000. And after looking at the zoning maps and after further discussion, we realized that couldn't happen because that would pretty much wash everything out. So Councilor Kelly and I co-signed on 2 amendments, keeping everything uniform: schools, senior centers, community centers, places of worship at 600 feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Name and address for the record.
My name is Anthony Cantino, and I live at 240 Suffolk Avenue. The issue here right now is a buffer zone where you can sell it. What is the buffer zone where you can smoke it? I'd like to know.
Thank you. That's the buffer zone, yeah. Go ahead, Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
I just need a little bit of clarification, please. Council Kelly, did you put in a substitute motion to do 500? Because Councilor Haas said 600. So if it's not 500, I want to put the substitute motion in for 500. Which I was planning on doing to begin with.
She already amended her motion to 500.
Okay, so it is at 500.
And I think that includes Councilor Haas. I think you sign on to that, correct? Yes. Okay, great. So you're okay with the 500?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think we went 600, but we're okay with 5.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so where are we at here?
So this was Amendment 1.
Can we talk as the public, Ashley, real quick?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Viviana Catano, Mountain Avenue. I was asking for 1,000. Again, this is why a lot of people are really upset about this. If 1,000 feet is the size of a whale, okay? So the more whales we can put between the marijuana dispensaries and our schools, I'm asking for 1,000 feet,
I
at
know you
least
are,
600.
but
Thank you.
Let me just say that asking for 1,000 feet. Okay, all right. So that's very nice, but wait, if you're asking for 1,000 feet, it eliminates all marijuana. So we all know, I know. So we know that you don't want marijuana. You don't have to tell us in everything you say here. We got it. Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Ana Rodriguez, 205 Conan Street, and I'm a childcare provider. I'm the owner of a business here in Revere, and I'm asking for 1,000 feet for my own business
Thank you
and
very
my
much.
house.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Good evening, Christine Robertson, 187 Charter Street.
We know who you are now.
Yeah, so do a lot of people do. All I'm going to
It's been a
say
long
is,
time.
the numbers count. 1,000 feet, 600 feet, 500 feet. Every foot counts for the safety of our neighborhoods and our children. All I'm asking is for everyone that is listening, that is here, you need to come on October 28th and voice your opinion, because that is when the council will vote on this. We can nitpick away, we can be unprofessional and derogatory to one another. This is no place for it. We need to conduct the business of this city, and we need to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Name and address, please.
Angelica Lee, 11 Harrington Street. I want to explain in English. I want to try. But really, I am very sad. I am a teacher for a long time, and 15 years or more. It's very, very, very sad. Have near the schools, near my house, or the house the people has kids, 1 store or 10 stores, the marijuana. I see you all the time that you are happy when disapprove these lawyers, these enmiendas. I don't know if this enmiendas. I don't know if you don't have kids, don't have teenagers.
Listen, I'm sorry, I got to stop you.
Okay, this is the point is that.
Hold on. You either have to talk on the amendment, or I got to ask you to sit down. Okay? I don't want to go into who has kids, who doesn't have kids, or any of that stuff, because it's irrelevant at this point. We're talking about this amendment. That's all I want to hear.
Okay.
Sorry, but that's
1,000 meters.
Feet.
Feet is not sufficient.
Okay.
It's insufficient.
Thank you.
It's nasty. It's worse for the community, for the kids, for our kids.
Thank you. Next, name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Ina Tall. I live on Florence Avenue here in Revere. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your work, and really thank you, Councillor Kelly, for trying to fight for this, because I think that 600 would have been wonderful. I hope that you can still think about it. This is really for our children. It's not just for us, because we know no matter what happens, they will get their hands on it. They will, because they do it in other cities. We see it. It's going to happen in Revere. You know, and to go from 0 to 5, like, you know, there's some in Chelsea, in East Boston. We can drive, we can go if we wanted as adults, but to put it in our communities where we have our children that will put their hands on it.
Again, you're off the subject, I'm sorry.
600 would be nice.
Thank you very much.
If we can think about it.
Thank you. Name and address.
Bonnie Curran, Barrett Street. I just have a question, like, they're increasing the liquor licenses right now in the state. Is this with the increase?
I think it is, yeah.
It's very important.
This is with the increase, yes.
The increase, thank you.
Okay, now we're getting ready to vote here. Madam Clerk?
Zoning Subcommittee members, this is on proposed joint amendment 1 by Councilor Kelly and Councilor Haas. Amendment 1 is as follows. Section 17-30050, Section S, the references to 300 feet shall be changed to 500 feet. And Section 17-30060E, the references to 300 feet shall be changed to 500 feet.
Excuse me. Oh, okay, all right. I thought you were taking the next one.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. On the amendment, Councilor Guarino Sawaya?
Yes.
Voting yes. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Voting yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Councilor Silvestri?
No.
No. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Voting yes, the amendment passes.
Final amendment, I think. Is it?
Yes.
Oh, you got some in your pocket?
No.
Okay.
Don't
You
tempt
gotta have
me.
a little.
Don't tempt me.
You gotta have a little humor here.
Right. Okay, so this basically is the same amendment talking to buffer zones, except it was actually something that Councilor Haas suggested to me, that he also wanted to apply the buffer zones to senior centers and places of worship. And I can tell you, having gone to a senior center event last week, I received overwhelming opposition from every single person I spoke to at the senior center. So I think this is a great addition to the buffer zone to add the senior centers and also places of worship. We know that places of worship is a place where children often frequent. So I think we can include both of them. I don't see anything that says in the state law or anywhere else that says we're prohibited from doing so. So I'd like to consider including senior centers and places of worship in the 500-foot buffer zone. Thank you.
Councilors, anyone else? Any councilors want to speak on this?
Mr. President, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, sorry. Of course, when we look at these three locations, community centers, which we don't have any in the city, senior centers, and places of worship, none of them are near the districts that are designated for the marijuana establishments within these numbers. So I don't, and we wouldn't do it anyway, we just wouldn't do something like that. And I can't see having to put it, in the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors?
I have a question for the
Question?
city planner.
Go ahead.
For the city planner.
For the city planner?
Yes.
Now you're the city planner instead of the town planner.
Hi. I was wondering if you could just clarify that, because I do know that section of the southern side of Squire Road that is remaining as a permissible location, doesn't that include a place of worship? And are you aware of any other places of worship that could be included in these permissible areas? Or within a 500-foot radius from them?
Places of worship, perhaps. Community centers, actually, I would recommend, if you were to adopt this amendment, that you take all three of these terms and you define exactly what they mean. Generally, in our zoning ordinance, when we introduce new terms, we have to define them so we know what we're referring to, because particularly community center is pretty ambiguous. So senior center, we all know where the senior center is. I think that's outside of the buffer zone here. But the other two, potentially you could find them depending on how you define those terms. So I would recommend, if you did adopt this, to define the terms so we didn't have that ambiguity. And as to your second point about the tracks on the southern part of Squire Road that are permitted, I would recommend we could seek some clarity on exactly which ones we're talking about, because it's not certain to me that they are permitted as the language is written today. I think the sections that you asked to have removed were the sections up to Patriots Parkway, but I don't believe that those additional sections were actually recommended to be included. So you should take a look at the zoning map, and I think it was not included either way. I think if you would have to make a motion in the affirmative to add those. I could be mistaken, and I'm seeing a shake. Okay, all right, so trust the city clerk.
Okay,
not me.
so
Point of information, Mr.
state
Chairman.
your point, Mr.
Through you to
President.
Councilor Kelly, there's actually, I believe the church on Squire Road is there. To my understanding, they're not going to be there much longer, but there is a church on Squire Road, right close to the circle, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so on the, no, it's okay. I'm sorry. So we're gonna take up this, what looks like an addition to putting community centers, churches, and senior center, whether or not they actually fit in the proposed areas is a question. Name and address for the record, please. Press the button.
Buenas noches. Estaban hablando de las zonas de restricción y yo quisiera un pequeño comentario acerca de eso. Yo quisiera que las zonas de restricción fueran lo suficientemente grandes para que los que no usamos este tipo de cosas recreativas tuviéramos que asumir el mismo costo que los que las usan. Y pienso que esa sería la mejor restricción, respetando mucho el uso de quienes la quieren usar y que hay muchos lugares donde las pueden comprar. Entonces, ¿por qué razón hay que hacer que sea grande más sabiendo todas las secuelas que esto está en nuestra sociedad y que tantos de nosotros estuvimos huyendo de eso y ahora se está acercando cada vez más a nuestros hogares?
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Do I need this?
No, not for me, sir.
I'm kidding.
Anthony Pazziali, 51 Arcadia Street. Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. I take a little bit of issue with the house of worship because if I were somebody that didn't want it near me, I would just open up a church.
Yeah.
I know that sounds goofy, but I would just put in the paperwork and I would just say that my house is a place of worship, and then our parks considered rec centers where the kids play. I think it's extremely too vague, and I think it's way too easy to set up a place of worship to make this go away.
Well, I think also that the city planner told us that you'd have to have some strong definitions on these particular places, and I don't think.
Okay,
We'll
thank
see.
you.
We'll see how the vote goes here. So, Madam Clerk, let's call the roll. Let's clarify what we're doing here.
Now, the zoning subcommittee is on the proposed joint amendment by Councilor Kelly and Councilor Haas. This is amendment number 2. Section 1730060E shall be modified to include the following text. The ME is located at least 500 feet distant of community centers, senior centers, and places of worship.
Call the roll, please.
On that amendment, Councilor Guarino Sawaya?
No.
No. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Councilor Silvestri?
No.
No. And Chairman Zambudo?
No.
No, that amendment fails. That concludes Councilor Kelly's and Haas's amendments. There were some amendments submitted by a non-member of the zoning subcommittee, Councilor Jaramillo.
It's my understanding that those amendments are all currently part of the state law. Am I correct in that?
I did review them. It's my understanding that many of them are already codified within the state law governing marijuana in addition to the Mass Code of Regulations.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on the floor? So those will be placed on file. Placed on file.
Now before you before the committee is now the amendments had gone through. Now there's the amended version of the proposed zoning ordinance for recreational marijuana. Does the committee want to take a recommendation on that as a whole?
What's the will of this body?
I'd ask that we keep the amendments separate. Is
I
that what we are?
Can't do that. We have to, they get added to this motion, isn't, you don't keep them separate. So I agree, we go forward with adopting these amendments.
Okay.
Right. Right, so these amendments will be forwarded favorably to the Revere City Council. Just all in favor, all opposed? So voted. No further business. Thank you all for your time. There's another meeting next week, 28th, 5 p.m. There's no zoning meeting. There's a Ledger Affairs and a Parks and Rec.